Hello everyone, welcome back for another Batman Miniature Game Battle Report 350 rep of Court of Owls versus the Militia. Also the last showing of this particular table layout. We're going to mix it up again for the one after this. We haven't decided on the scenario yet or anything like that, but we have picked objectives, etc. So let's quickly go over those and get started. It's a battle of the bat boxes today, as this is the Court of Owl bat box that you've seen a couple of times already, led by Lincoln Marsh with the Gotham Butcher as a free agent, and then henchmen. We have the Talon, we have Strix, and we have Zhao. For objectives, they are taking a Riddler objective, a loot, and the Court of Owl markers, which were used incorrectly last time because of a misunderstanding regarding their text. The way they actually work is they generate a victory point for a non-leader Court of Owls model if for whatever reason they generate victory points from a different source within 4 inches. So in other words, put it next to another objective and one of the henchmen here gain objective victory points from that, then the owl generates a victory point. So you want to put them next to objectives or put them next to where you think fighting is going to happen. Sorry we got that wrong the first time, but at least we're going to get it right this time. And of course this is the second outing for the Militia Bat Box, led by the Arkham Knight, backed up as a sidekick with Scarecrow. Then all the rest of them are classed as henchmen, the Cybernetic Brute, the Lieutenant and the Medic, and then Militia Soldiers 1, 2 and 3. And just like last time, they are giving another run to the same objective marker types: medicine, ammo, and the unique one for them, the drone that moves around. And once again the Lieutenant will be the drone controller, which is him there. So we'll set up our lampposts and sewers, decide on the scenario, so on and so forth, and then be back at the proper deployment. So at deployment we have selected scenario 2, Plunder, which is the one where 4-inch deployment zone at either long edge. Well, I guess it's a 3x3, so it's the same regardless of which side you pick. One player's deployment, and then their loot zone is far away from them. One player's deployment, their loot zone is far away from them. 6 inches, all their objectives have to be placed in these respective zones. So that's all been done already. Bonus victory points. 4 victory points to the first player who controls 2 of their own objectives at the same time. If both players achieve it in the same round, then no victory points to anyone. And then 1 victory point in the last round of the game if you control at least 1 of your own objectives. Simple. So if we go over here to see how deployment is looking, 4 inches on each edge is not a particularly large deployment zone, so the militia is basically just stacked up here. Got a lamppost, sewer grating lamppost. That is one of the owl markers. There's the loot, the other owl marker. Then over here we have an owl marker between the 2 riddle objectives. We've got a sewer grating up here, sewer grating, lamppost. And then around here, if I can get Sora's butt out of the way, lamppost, as I knock a tree over almost. The Butcher and Zhao are over here, and then the rest of the Court of Owls are right there. And then in the middle here we've got ammo, sewer grating, drone, medicine, sewer grating, lamppost rather, sewer grating, lamppost, and then nothing behind this building there. So that's everything set up. The difference in squads is 3 again, so the Court of Owls can do a lot of passes at first. It's time to decide who gets first activation in Battle Round 1. We'll do pink again for the Militia, green for Court of Owls. So that is pink, so the Militia takes first activation. For the Militia's first activation of this game, Arkham Knight activated. Also, he's a bit further forward than where he was when he started because he has the undercover role, which is an extra move before the game starts of 4 inches. So he was actually starting roughly here. He moved all the way up because he couldn't take a shot. Although his scope lets him see all distances, his rifle is still medium range, so that's 16 inches maximum, I believe. So he moved next to the loot. He has picked up the loot, which does not belong to him, but he's taking it anyway. So he has stolen the loot, and he's probably going to look to retreat after that next turn, but he can't this turn anyway. So that's their first move. Let's see what the Court of Owls do. The Court of Owls' chosen action was to use 2 passes in a row, so here's 2 more Militia turns real quick. The Carbine Militia member moved up to the safety of behind that car. He also used a special to crouch. And then the shield using Militia followed suit, and just to remove it in case it makes a difference, punched or swung his billy club at the nearby lamp and destroyed the lamp just to remove the light source there. Not that it really matters because the Court of Owls only have 1 person ranged, but still, it's done. So they're not allowed to use their 3rd pass. It has to be the Court of Owls activation now. The Gotham Butcher, with his amazing movement, barreled forward. He did not have enough to make contact with the Arkham Knight, so he opted not to move his full range and to stay just a little bit hidden behind the side of this building here. Then, after that, the Cybernetic Brute moved up on this flank. The final pass for the Court of Owls was used after that, and Scarecrow opted to just follow up with most of the team, hoping to use strength in numbers, I guess, more than anything else. So now it's back over to the Court of Owls to see how they react to that. So as is normal until the fists start flying, just a couple of other quick activations to go over here. Zao activated and followed behind the Gotham Butcher. Then next for the Militia, the Medic moved up with the bulk of the forces, again kind of sticking close to the Brute like he did last time, but now he has more options for heals around him too. So that means there's 3 left to go for the Court of Owls and just 2 left to go for the Militia. Lincoln Marsh chose to activate next, and he can fly once per phase for a movement and a special, so that's how he's on this building now. He was over there obviously. He cleared some distance and then diagonally flew up onto here. He is within range of a light, but no one can see him from here anyway. So he's being more aggressive than he has been in the previous matches, so we can maybe see what he can do. So all that's left is probably some positioning for the final 2 Militia and 2 Court of Owl talons that haven't gone yet, so we'll come back with probably just a quick recap of those 4 activations. So for the final 4 activations of Battle Round 1, just to get them out of the way because it was positioning as it normally is, the 2 Militia members, the one with the rocket launcher and the Lieutenant, just kind of moved up and crouched. The Lieutenant has 2 counters left to, because he crouched this time, to move the drone an extra 6 inches in total if he wishes to at the end of the turn fully. Then over here we come all the way around the battlefield. Strix and the Talon are hiding behind that Street Sweeper there, ready to pounce. It's going to be a very messy battle round 2, I feel, for someone. The Court of Owls crew are fast, but they need to get into close combat to do damage. Let's see who's going to get first activation in battle round 2. It is going to be the Militia again. It could be good or it could be bad, let's see. Apologies, but this is recorded a little bit later in the match, so hence the strange view. Not to spoil anything, I've totally forgot to mention the recap of turn 1 points wise. The only points gained was the 1 victory point loot for the Arkham Knight holding the loot. There was no other gains in that turn whatsoever. So to get battle round 2 started, Arkham Knight activated. Double check the aim roll, and you're not allowed to move at any point in your turn. It's not just a case of fire first then move, because it says you can't have moved to fire. It just says you cannot move, and he doesn't have a Master Marksman or whatever it's called. So he couldn't shoot and run. Considered throwing an electric smoke grenade to maybe shock the Gotham Butcher to force him to go much later in the turn, but that would also give him the smoke effect so he couldn't be shot at, and that didn't seem like a good idea either. So Arkham Knight retreated to the sewer grating and has travelled all the way up here, giving him a very nice vantage point of the street where the 2 Talon assassins are, hopefully to snipe them. I was trying to think of a nicer way to put it, just no, he's going to snipe them. So that's his turn. Now over to the Court of Owls. Gotham Butcher activated and bounded forwards across the battlefield, all the way over here to engage with the rocket launcher Merc. He only had 3 attacks going in because he had his full movement allotted of 3 as well, on top of being huge and fast, etc. He can move really far. So only 1 claw got through for 1 blood, 1 stun, but he did score a knockdown. So the rocket launcher using Merc, he's on half endurance but knocked down. He still has an activation this turn though. The Gotham Butcher has obviously exposed himself to a lot of potential fire, but maybe that was his plan all along. We'll see. So I don't know if you can hear that in the background, but the sky is just opened up and it is absolutely pouring outside, so apologies if that's audible. Anyway, next activate was the carbine using Militia member, whatever. He turned around, just swiveled on the spot and shot 5 shots at the Gotham Butcher. Did terribly with his hit chances and only did 1 blood to him. It would have been a knockdown as well, but huge models have special rules about what can knock them down because they're so colossal, so the Gotham Butcher is not knocked over by such puny things as bullets from a carbine rifle. He did consider firing at Strix through just about make the gap out there, but Strix has stealth, so she couldn't be seen anyway, and even if she could, she would have got a ping roll, whereas the Gotham Butcher is so large he didn't. Did a little bit of damage to him, not nearly as much as he would have hoped though. Let's see what the court does in response. So the court decided to activate Lincoln Marsh next, and he activated his fly for movement and a special again, and shot from one rooftop over to the next because the Arkham Knight was in range. Engaged him, opted to use his owl knife because it has handy and sharp for rerolls, because the Arkham Knight's a 50-50 chance to hit basically. to try to make hits land as opposed to going for the retractable claws for stun and blood. So anyway, 2 blood plus a knockdown on the Arkham Knight. He's had his activation, so he can't stand up until next turn, which could be important. So Lincoln has bloodied the nose of the leader of the militia crew. Now it's back over to them to see what they do. I didn't mean for that to rhyme again. So a few militia activations to cover now because passes were used. The shield militiaman moved up, heading towards the Riddler objective there, but couldn't quite make it. The Court of Owls passed. So then the cybernetic brute moved up to the riddle. Have not rolled for that riddle yet, so we'll see in a second because we forgot. And then another pass was used. The rocket launcher merc stood up, backed off, but it has aim, so he can't fire it, and even if he could, he'd also hit the lieutenant because it's a 2-inch blast or 4-inch blast. So we'll be back with a quick amendment about that riddle objective that we forgot about. The result on the riddler roll was a 6, but because it's not their objective, it's an automatic -1, bringing it down to 5, which is still 2 victory points, and it denies the Court of Owls one of their objectives. They have to activate someone next. Zhao darted forwards next for the Court of Owls, beelining for the mercs over here to back up the Gotham Butcher. Next for the mercs, they activated the medic, and he moved over here. So now all that's left for the mercs to move is Scarecrow, and I think that's it. So Scarecrow, but after the final 2 talons for the Court of Owls as well, or one of them, and then him last. We'll see what happens next. So the next activation for the Court of Owls was Strix, and she really got a chance to show what she could do. She had to use her full movement to close this gap though, so she has nothing left to actually manipulate the Riddler objective. It doesn't matter though, she attacked the shield-wielding militia member, did 4 blood, 1 stun and a knockdown. The militia member has 4 HP, so he is dead. She also did it within 4 inches of one of the owl markers, which in turn will generate 1 bonus victory point. She's obviously put herself in the thick of it. She's, well, not surrounded, but she has dangerous people nearby her, but that was probably worth it. Activation for the militia for this battle round was Scarecrow. He wasn't expecting the distance to be closed, so he had nothing in attack, but luckily he doesn't necessarily need it. He shuffled over to the side here, and his 4-inch range fear gas spray was used on Strix. She failed her willpower roll and was affected by Terror 1 and Scared 1. Terror doesn't matter, or one of them doesn't matter because it just affects her hit chance and ability to dodge ranged attacks and whatnot this turn, which doesn't matter because we're at the end of it. But in her following movement turn, or following activation, she has 1 less willpower to distribute because of Scared. I think Terror is the one that affects dodging. Either way, the final person to go for this turn is going to be the Talon. So the Talon activated and he had no one in range, so he opted to use 1 less movement counter in order to move next to and manipulate the Riddler trophy that belongs to the Court of Owls. He got a 6, which is 4 victory points. He also did it in range of the owl marker, so that should be another bonus victory point. Double check the ruling on the Court of Owl objective markers. They say only that a model can't get the benefit more than once in an activation, not that multiple models can't. So that should be correct. We'll be back in a second with the turn 2 recap. So as we end battle round 2 here, a quick amendment. Totally forgot that the lieutenant had not activated. He struck out at the Gotham Butcher and did 2 stun. One of the stuns was not healed at the end of the turn, nor was the stun sitting on the militia member with the rocket launcher. As far as everything else, the militia gained 2 victory points for solving a riddle and 1 victory point for the Arkham Knight still holding onto a loot. He doesn't drop it unless he gets knocked out or willingly drops it. Now the Court of Owls, they got 1 victory point for knocking out a henchman, 1 victory point for making him a casualty in the same fell swoop. They get 2 bonus victory points, 1 bonus victory point for being within range of an L for that. Then they got the inspired solution on the riddle for 4, and they were within range of an L for an extra bonus victory point on top of that. The inspired solution on the riddle has put them out in front. Now statistically, the Court of Owls are more likely to get first activation because they haven't had one yet. It's not impossible that it would be the militia again. Let's see. It's actually the militia again. Alright, well that means the next 3 final turns are Court of Owls first for sure, but as we go into battle round 3, militia goes first. So to start battle round 3, the militia didn't really have a choice with who it had to activate if they wanted their leader to survive. Arkham Knight activated, he spent a special to stand up, He threw some punches at Lincoln Marsh, did quite well, did well, 2 stun plus the bonus stun from the collateral result, so that's 3 stun on him. He then fleed through the serve, since he's not really designed for fighting, he's designed for sniping. And he opted to pop up all the way around here, touching the ammo as well, so he's now claiming it. He couldn't manipulate it because he needed to spend extra movement because he's holding the loot, but fleed, hopefully for the best. Let's see what the Court of Owls do in response. Just a quick correction, Lincoln Marsh has power armor, which we forgot about. Power armor, you can spend specials to negate damage, but also it makes you +1 harder to hit. So went back and checked, only 1 hit landed. The collateral result stays the same however, so it's 2 stun on him, not 3. The first Court of Owls activation for battle round 3 was Zhao. He leapt over here and engaged the already wounded rocket launcher using Militia. He did 2 blood and a knockdown, but the knockdown doesn't really matter because he had 1 blood, 1 stun on him and 4 endurance. So he has a total of 3 blood and 1 stun accumulated on his person. He is knocked out. Not dead, but he's very, very close to death. 1 single hit will do it, but he is knocked out. The medic can revive him if he chooses to, although things are looking a bit dicey over this side of the field. Zhao had planned to go after the carbine using Militia, didn't have quite enough movement with the movement counters allotted, and decided he has stealth, so that distance there is longer than 8 inches, so the carbine user can't actually shoot him. Could shoot the Butcher again, but can't shoot Zhao, so that's why that decision was made. Was going to go for Scarecrow, who was in range, just bending around the corner there. Scarecrow's a little hard to hit, even though this one doesn't have Charming, but what's done is done. Now on to the Militia. The Cybernetic Brute activated for the Mercs next. He moved into claiming the medical. He then struck out at Talon. He wasn't able to do any wounds, but he did land hits, and we were reading the blurb for the drone again. It just says +1 to hit, and then if a hit is successful, you generate a bonus victory point. Successful as in it landed but didn't wound, still is successful in terms of like being a hit, so we're going to count that as being the 1 bonus victory point gained. Also, going to have to look into whether or not that counts as being contested because it's being touched from that side. It might not matter because Talon hasn't gone yet, but it might come up at the end, and we've had that problem before, but I don't remember what the solution was. Anyway, back over to the court. Next. Descending using the fly rule from the building he was on, Lincoln Marsh crashed down in base contact with the carbine using Militia member, unleashed his owl knife, not his retractable claws, because wanted the rerolls to hit and wound. Did a staggering 5 blood and knockdown, but the knockdown is irrelevant because he only has 4 endurance, so he is killed. That is another henchman for the Militia lost to a Court of Owls assassin. Now, although he did do it within 4 inches of one of the owl markers, Lincoln is the leader, so that does not impart a bonus victory point. Scarecrow activated next and moved right next to Strix. He has an ability where you can spend a special to turn his fear gas into an AoE around him, so he was trying to affect Lincoln as well. Lincoln was able to pass the willpower roll, Strix did not. Only failed it by 2, so it was just scared, which just affects her hit rolls this turn. He then attacked with his fear syringe, inflicted scared on her again, along with 2 blood and a knockdown. She's still conscious though, and she still hasn't had an activation yet, so she is going to be able to do something. We'll see what soon. Strix activated next and stood up and then punished Scarecrow for knocking her over and making her scared. Even with the -1 to hit, she still gets her rerolls. The katanas have handy and sharp, I think, so it's reroll hits and wounds. Managed to do 4 blood to Scarecrow, so he is hurting. She is going for the kill. So for the next Militia activation, there was a shocking turn of events when the Lieutenant activated his electric, what is it called? Electric baton, which is mechanical, so it negates his normally high or highly difficult chance to land a hit, or a wound rather. Anyway, he struck out at the Gotham Butcher and managed to do a shocking 6 stun to him, and with the accumulated 2 stun and 1 blood he already had, the Gotham Butcher is knocked out. He is down and out. That's a free agent unconscious. He will have the chance to wake up at the end of the turn, because it's very unlikely anyone around is going to kill him. Still a surprising blow to the Court of Owls there. So now the Militia, well, it's the Court of Owls turn next and they just have the Talon. And then after that the Militia just have the Medic, I think. And then that'll be it. So we'll do a quick go of their activations and then be back. So Talon struck out the Cybernetic Brute, only was able to do 3 blood because of the armor trying to get through. He then hopped behind just to make sure that the medicine was contested, so that's going to deny the Militia the scenario objective for claiming 2 of their own, because right now the Arkham Knight is holding the ammo. The final activation was the Medic. waking up the missile launcher mercenary, militia, whatever. So he's awake, he will need to stand up on his next turn. There was nothing much else he could do, he only has 2 attacks max with the points he can distribute. So we'll be back in a second with the turn recap. So at the end of battle round 3, the Gotham Butcher did not wake up, so he's still going to be unconscious. Lincoln did not recover from the stun accumulated on him, and that was it because the rocket launcher militia member has woken up. In terms of victory points, the militia scored 1 for the drone. They have scored 3 for the ammo and 1 for the loot. The Court of Owls got 2 points for 2 henchmen made KO, and then an additional 1 on top of that for killing one of the henchmen. Oh, and additionally for the militia, I totally forgot, the Gotham Butcher was of course knocked out. He's a free agent, so that is 3 victory points. So although the militia are dying on their feet, victory point wise it's close, but they are ahead. We know for a fact that the Court of Owls are getting first activation on the remaining 3 battle rounds, but there's the icon anyway. So here we go into turn 4. So to start battle round 4, Lincoln activated, moved round and attacked the Scarecrow in his back using his owl knife just to guarantee the hits because he didn't need to do much. In the end he did 4 blood. Scarecrow already had 4 blood on him and he only has 7 endurance, so he is dead. He is a casualty. So that's a sidekick casualty for the Court of Owls to get battle round 4 started off on a very strong foot. Let's see what the militia do in retort. The Arkham Knight activated for the militia. He manipulated the ammo he is claiming to get back a magazine. He then shot at the Talon in his back and did 3 blood, 2 stun. The Talon's still on his feet. I think he has 7 endurance offhand. So he's still able to fight, but he took a very nasty blow there from the sniper rifle. So much of this battle has happened in this one little street corner, but still the Talon activated, knowing that it might not be long for this world. He activated Precise Blow for 1 special, which gives him +1 to hit. He then also used Combo Knife rather than his owl knife, just to go for number of hits. Managed to do 5 blood to the Cybernetic Brute. With the 3 he had already. He is dead. So that is another henchman casualtied, and now no one is claiming the ammo for the militia. The Court of Owls can't claim it either. Oh, and an addendum, the drone was in range when Talon got shot by Arkham Knight, so that is 1 victory point that should have been added on there. The Militia Lieutenant activated next, and he attacked Zhao with a sneak attack from the side, swinging his electrical club as he went, and managed to land 4 stun on Zhao. That was the first bit of damage Zhao has taken, so he is standing. He has 2 endurance left though. So perhaps also sensing that he's not long for this world, Zhao activated. He struck at the rocket launcher using militia that was still on the ground, conscious but on the ground, did 3 blood, so he is now also a casualty. And casualties can't be brought back by the medic, who's now just kind of flailing there. Zhao then kind of just retreated his 4 inches over to the back of that car just to force them to come to him and put them in perhaps in the danger range of over there. So in terms of who hasn't gone yet, it's just the medic for the militia and Strix for the Court of Owls. The militia, if we were playing the rules where you have to retreat once you lose a certain number of your reputation's worth of models, the militia would have gone. We don't do that because it's a bad rule, in my opinion. But they do only have the Lieutenant, the Medic and Arkham Knight standing. Let's see what happens. So just to go over the final 2 activations of Battle Round 4 real quick. The Medic took out his surgical scalpel, chased after Zhao, did 1 blood to him. Strix didn't have anything in movement because she was expecting to have to fight Scarecrow, so she just moved her standard move and is heading towards the Arkham Knight because that's the only other target within range that's considered a threat. So now it is time for the recap. So at the end of Battle Round 4, Zhao recovered 1 stun. The Gotham Butcher did wake up, but no one else recovered anything. In terms of victory points, the Court of Owls, well, they murdered another henchman. They knocked out and murdered a sidekick for 2 points and 2 points, and then the 1 point obviously for the casualty of the henchman that had already been knocked out prior. The militia scored 3 for the ammo that the Arkham Knight is holding around here, and 1 for the loot he is also holding on his person. But that is it, and we know for a fact that Battle Round 5 is the Court of Owls going first. Because there is still 2 battle rounds left, there is the genuine chance this could be the first Batman tabling we've seen happen here. But obviously there you go, Court of Owls, first activation, Battle Round 5. Battle Round 5 began with the Gotham Butcher not wishing to give up free agent casualty points by standing up and charging the Lieutenant. with his claws flailing, managed to do 2 blood, 2 stun. That's the first damage the Lieutenant has taken. He's got 2 endurance left. He's still able to act though. Considered that being the best option because a free agent getting made a casualty gives up more points than a henchman, I think. I think it's just a case of 2 versus 1. So, but that was the choice made because it's not so bad if one henchman gets taken out by the Arkham Knight. Well, let's see if that's about to happen. The Arkham Knight activated, he shot at Strix and sadly he just missed, unfortunately. He did activate the ammo again to get the magazine he expended back, opted to stay next to it, which might be a mistake, but there's nothing worth falling back over here for. He wants to try and hold that objective, even if it may ruin his day. Strix charged in, and for the first time this fight, she didn't do too well with her hits. The Arkham Knight had a couple of dice in defense, was able to reflect, deflect, parry, who knows, her katana blows, so nothing happened there. She is, however, now contesting the ammo that he was claiming, so it's not going to give any points. So a quick recap of the final few activations of Battle Round 5. The Talon, he is wounded, so he's got less counters that he can allocate, so he couldn't move very far. He is moving, though, to back up Strix for the final battle round. Over here, the medic did 2 more blood damage to Zhao and managed to knock him out. He still he hasn't accumulated enough to be counted as a casualty. He's got 5 blood accumulated and 2 stun, I think. Wait, no, sorry. 3 stun and 3 blood. I was looking at the wrong card. So yeah, he is knocked out, but he is not dead. Over here, again, this electric club is surprisingly effective. 4 stun damage to the Gotham Butcher. He found himself knocked out again. Just clubbed and just flung to the floor. I was trying to think of a way to say that, implying how badass it was, but without using a swear word. Very difficult. Anyway, in a second we'll be doing the recap for Battle Round 5. So as we recap Battle Round 5, just a quick addendum, we're not convinced that Lincoln Marsh got an activation that turn. A bit hard to keep track with so many people dying. So, to compromise, he moved towards the medic, but he did not do anything. He couldn't have reached anyway because he had everything in attack and defense this time. So he's moved there. Apologies for the error, whichever way the error went. In terms of victory points, though, the Gotham Butcher did not give up any more victory points to the Militia because he's already been knocked out once before. However, Zhao being knocked out gave out a point. The ammo was contested, so that no longer did, but the Arkham Knight is still holding on to loot, so that generated 1 victory point. As far as the Court of Owls, what did they do this turn? Let's see. Did they do anything this turn? I think they took out another henchman, didn't they? I've forgotten now. We've been counting the henchman kills and casualties as we go, as opposed to at the end of the recap where we just add up the objective points. So I might be forgetting one, but rest assured the score we're keeping on a bit of paper is correct. So we know the Court of Owls are going last. This is going to be a real quick final turn. Combats are going to matter though, so let's see what happens. So with so few models left for the Militia, we're just going to do a full Battle Round 6 recap here to take us to the end of the game, just the key things that happened. Lincoln Marsh did 4 blood and 4 stun to the medic. He is very much dead. The lieutenant tried to coup de grace the Gotham Butcher, only ended up doing 2 blood on top of the 1 he had because most of the damage he'd accumulated was stun, so he is not dead, he's still just knocked out. Over here, Strix did 4 blood to the Arkham Knight, wasn't enough to take him down. The Arkham Knight tried to strike Strix, did nothing to her. He then retreated, knowing that the Talon didn't have enough movement counters because of how wounded he is and he wanted to go for the attack. In hindsight, maybe should have used him first because Strix does have a ranged attack, but too late now. So the Arkham Knight did survive, but he backed off of the ammo, which was going to be contested anyway. So that's it. Let's go to the recap. So to recap that, the points gained there, and then also the final points for the game. Obviously the henchman being made a casualty there, the medic for a victory point for being killed, then a victory point for being casualty. The Militia gained a victory point for having the loot and nothing else. So, to take us to the end of the game properly, even though the Militia were beaten pretty badly in terms of like who's left standing, and if the game had continued they definitely would have been wiped out, it's 2020 victory points wise. Now obviously if the drone thing or the owl thing was done wrong at any point, that would sway the points one way or the other, but we're taking this as a 2020 victory points draw for both sides, even though one side is being able to walk away better. Would have been well, keep in mind if any of the Court of Owls had died, they give up an extra victory point, which might have swung it as well. But that was a super close game, very definitely the most bloody one we've had yet. That was a lot of fun. Next time it's going to be a new table, different layout, different crews perhaps. We'll see who it will be next time. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, sincerely do. Check out the playlist if you want to see the other previous battle reports, and I will see you next time. Ta-ta for now.